There we go. I think we're ready to go. Sorry for the delay. I completely forgot that I now write the news segments instead of just going through the news headlines. So I had to run off and do that real quick. So, hello everyone. I was gonna say it's a good week for anime. Last week was not such a great week for anime, but we'll get into that in a little bit. The ultimate anime stream, absolutely. Got some fun stuff coming up tonight. I'll be reviewing Vampire Princess Miyu. We'll be going over the anime news. Not too much in terms of anime news this week, actually, but catching up with some on last week. And we'll be talking about genres poised for a comeback in anime. Hey, Spinduin. Hey, Kuma. Hey, Tonto. And maybe might be doing some giveaways tonight, too, which will be exciting and fun. Some of the giveaways from the big anniversary were unclaimed. So you guys might get a chance to win some new stuff. Anyway, let's get to it, I think. Audio's quiet, you say. Audio should not be quiet. It says it's coming in pretty strong. Is everyone else getting low audio? Because I might be able to crank it up. I don't think, let me see. That's, 1 second. Microphone, that's enabled. Levels, yeah, that's pretty high. Am I low for everyone else? Because my audio is maxed on OBS, so I should not have that problem there. Interesting. Alrighty. Well, sec. Please. Give me one moment. Panning, no. Mic is 100%. So that's there. Let's see. Let me try mixer. No, that's just output. Recording devices. Pull those. Yes, you have a giant engine. That's really impressive. Device. That's weird. I did not know audio was soft. Well, it's definitely coming in, so that's not a problem. I know at one point I cut it low a little bit. That's true. Interesting. So I'm seeing very low input on the microphone in Windows. I don't want that. I don't want speech recognition. I don't want any of that stuff. Properties. Listen. Whatever. Levels. We'll crank it up a bit in Windows to highest we can go. So that's cranked up there. Other streamers are having that issue too. It could be that that YouTube has started cutting things down a little bit. Oh, interesting. It's louder now. Okay. Yeah, it's kind of pegging in my in OBS. So OBS is saying this is awfully loud, which tells me that YouTube must be doing some weird auto leveling stuff. Good to know. And I don't have anything else going on in the house, so there shouldn't be any weird background noise that's affecting it. All right, cool. That's loud enough. Good to hear. Let's go ahead then, and I need to actually pull up the news titles. Again, I kind of forgot about that. I think I only have 3 news stories this week, so that shouldn't be too big of a deal. So stand by. While I'm doing that, I'll go ahead and talk a little bit about this season's anime. I've started watching this season's anime, which is exciting. That I think will do. I'm 4 series in, so to speak. Which is a lot of fun. I'm really enjoying pretty much everything out there, to be honest. And yeah, I don't think. Oh well. I'll probably find something for that. Yeah, I can. That'll do nicely. So I've watched Gegege no Kitaro, which is great fun, as I mentioned. That. Oh, okay, that'll work. Kitaro is a tough one because it's weird. The original Kitaro is really its own thing, and you're just not going to get something that is like. One sec. Where's need to go to there. Gosh, I'm all discombobulated tonight. That's okay. It'll still be fun. There. Much better. So Kitaro's weird. It is not your typical anime series. It's not your typical manga series. It's about this boy that can deal with spirits and it can be creepy at times. It can be real creepy at times. But it can also be like really shonen at times. And we'll put that image there. If I can find out, remember what the name of this thing is. It's not that. It's not that. It's not that. Is it up here? Is it down there? There it is. You just scale that down a little bit. There we are. So again, stand by, and we'll be there, ready to go. So yeah, there is all sorts of fun stuff out there. So I enjoyed Kitaro, manages to balance that weird shonen with a horror vibe. Watch Gundam Build Divers, which is interesting. It's a much more of a fun, light series, even by Gundam Build standards. It's more comedic, more upbeat, and downright goofy quite a bit of the time, which is a nice change. So enjoying that. And then, so that's been a fun thing. And then, oh, gotta move this over as well. So copy this to here. So much to do. So little time. And there's that. We just paste that in there. All right. Yep, that needs to be there. Cool, cool, cool. That's there. Again, apologies for the confusion here. So there's that. What else did I watch? Caligula, which I was a little worried about because it starts very slow, very generic, and then it gets interesting. I'd heard about the concept behind Caligula and thought it sounded like something that would go in interesting directions, and it does. You just have to wait a little while in episode 1, but it does go there. Steins Gate. Yeah, I'm curious to see what they do with Steins Gate. Yeah, I really enjoyed interviews with Monster Girls. It's not a harem. Interviews with Monster Girls is kind of the, I guess it is. It has a harem structure, but there's a scene in Interviews with Monster Girls where the guy talks about how he is not interested in any of the girls, like very, very clearly, because like they're students of his. Like no. So do not be confused by that aspect of it. It's not really about him being interested in any of the girls, or them really being interested in him. They like hanging out with him, like in the same way that you like hanging out with a cool teacher. But there's no romance or even implied romance in that, except for one of the adult girls with the main character, and that's very, very much on the side. Oh, Steins Gate. Sorry, gotcha. I'm pretty sure Steins Gate isn't harem either, in any reasonable sense of the definition, right? Like there are cute girls around, but I think that might be someone kind of trolling you on that. But I haven't watched Steins Gate either, so I can't comment. All right, let's move on to the news. Because yeah. Got to do the news, right? I mean, news is important. We all got to know what's going on, and you just got to figure out the news. So we just got to pull it up on our device here. And then when we have that, we can actually do the news, which is pretty cool. So I can just pull that up here once it decides to update. There's there. Then we pull it and go over there. Yeah, I might be mentioning that. And then we can go in here and do this done. Burento-san. Hey, the creator. Yep, definitely. That was a blow for me and a lot of people. I might do a special video about it. Welcome back to the latest anime news for the week ending April 13th, 2018. Well, we pretty much have to start here, don't we? Yeah. Last week, legendary anime director Isao Takahata passed away. After decades in the anime industry, directing a wide variety of classics, including Horus Prince of the Sun, Heidi Girl of the Alps, Anne of Green Gables, Panda Go Panda, Grave of the Fireflies, Only Yesterday, Pompoko, My Neighbors the Yamadas, and The Tale of Princess Kaguya. Yes, he directed all those. He finally succumbed to lung cancer from all those cigarettes that he smoked constantly. Please, don't smoke, okay? Anyway, moving on to slightly less sad news, the Japanese government has asked internet providers to block piracy sites, including those that host pirated manga, as well as magazines and such. The government's particularly noted 3 pirate manga sites, in addition to sites hosting magazines and such, noting that the most popular of those manga piracy sites gets 100 million readers a month. So according to Japan's Content Overseas Distribution Association, piracy leached about $3.5 billion US from Japanese copyright holders just in the 6 months starting last September. Now, obviously, those numbers are hard to calculate in reality, but still. Now, at least one Japanese newspaper notes that there's no legal precedent for this request from the government, and that it might violate Article 21 of Japan's constitution about freedom of the press. The government states it does think it would be allowed under Japan's penal code. So, more to come on that. Hard to really tell where that's going to go, but they've requested it, simply. See where that goes. Finally, an announcement of a new anime that was actually announced 6 years ago, but is now finally coming to light as an ONA. Calamity of the Zombie Girl will launch July 4th from Studio Gonzo, behind Last Exile and Blue Sub 6 and many other things. It is about a beautiful girl who discovers she's a zombie and now has to fight through hordes of undead, essentially, in search of some artifact. And apparently she's a very, let's just say, spirited girl, pun intended. So that's coming soon, and we will see where that takes us. That's all the news for this week. Thank you for joining us. Hope you'll meet us again here next week. Okay. I think what I will do... yeah. Take this down so I'm not thinking about it. Yeah, I kind of worded that so people might think about Despera. No, he did not direct Whisper the Heart of Cat Returns. Whisper the Heart was by a different, a very enterprising young director at Ghibli that sadly passed away not long after Whisper the Heart came out. Very sad. I'm recording this video about a week after the passing of Isao Takahata, because I think a lot of modern anime fans don't know who he is and the impact that he had on the anime industry. Takahata is not just some director who made interesting anime. He is responsible to a large degree for anime being what it is. He was working at Toei Animation back in the 70s to really try to bring animation standards up to the quality it was out in the West. He really was pushing for complex stories and an approach to animation that understood what animation was at kind of a molecular level, where you didn't absolutely have to have a Disney quality budget to make a Disney quality film. That's really what Horus Prince of the Sun was, which was his first major directorial credit. while certainly a film aimed more at kids than anything else and kind of an adventure story, there's a lot of interesting stuff going on in that movie. It has pathos. It has tragedy. It has a very dark story in its own way. And it doesn't shy away from any of that. Throughout the rest of his career, he was always moving anime in directions that people just didn't really expect. It's one of the remarkable things about Takahata is that he loved animation. His longtime collaborator Hayao Miyazaki, while definitely an animator at heart, was always using animation to make films. Takahata was making films so that he could make animation. If you watch The Tale of Princess Kaguya, Takahata's last film, you'll see somebody at the height of his craft who is creating animation that speaks to you at a very direct level without requiring massive amounts of budget, but also knowing where to put that budget, where to make anime count, make the animation count. As a result, his films often weren't categorized very clearly as anime. Grave of the Fireflies certainly doesn't look like Gundam or Macross. Grave of the Fireflies is a work of art. My Neighbors the Yamadas was really trying to play around with digital technology and with very different methods of producing animation and made something charming. Not a lot of mainline things, mainline movies qualify as charming, and he managed that in the Yamadas because he understood animation. As a result, Takahata has kind of been on the sidelines of anime. And anime fans don't really get exposed to a lot of his work, partly because he was making movies rarely. He really kind of moved out of the industry to a great extent, and made only a few movies over the past couple of decades. Because partly he'd kind of made his mark. He'd done impressive stuff in the 70s and the 80s, and into the 90s. And he'd proved himself. And unfortunately in the modern society, there's this sort of, well, what have you done recently that's interesting? But he did some really interesting stuff. He helped prove that anime was not just for kids. That anime was a medium of art. And we owe him that respect. If not just for the respect of somebody who was able to use this medium in ways that consistently surprised and impressed its viewers. Rest in peace. So yeah, that'll go up. That was a blow for me, discovering that Takahata had passed. I think Takahata's films are in a sense more impressive than Miyazaki's, in the sense that they're trying to do more. They're trying to go outside the bounds of classic filmmaking more than Miyazaki does. Thanks, Kuma. Yeah, he's definitely one of the guiding lights of anime for a long time. He was an auteur, and he was definitely industries need people like that. Industries need folks who are pushing things and going in their own direction, but always for the desire of making the industry better, making the industry more impressive, deeper, more complex, right? He was never showboating. He was never telling people how amazing he was. He was just making art. I think that's really cool. Yeah, rest in peace. Okay, so that was that. Let me get ready for... Need to paste in the dramatic reading and the review as well. So let me do that. So I can have that ready to go. I need... Because I actually have the dramatic reading here. I just need to get it into I put that in Drive? Yeah. That's going to be hard to... Okay, that's going to be weird. That's fine. We'll do weird. Can always do weird. In fact, while I'm here, let me pull in the Miyu review. Whoops. Might as well have all that ready to go, right? I really enjoyed Miyu. It was just one of those things where you're like, yep, more of this, please. In fact, I might do Miyu next. I don't know. Ah, there we go, Ray. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to oversell Grave of the Fireflies. To say, you know, you might be impressed by this. No, you're probably going to be impressed by Grave of the Fireflies. I have come across people who just didn't get it, where it just wasn't their... They weren't ready for that style of film. Fair enough. But it is a... It's up there. It is absolutely a classic of film. Ebert put it up there as one of the great classics of film, not just that. All right, so that's there. Yeah, let's do a review. I'm in the mood for a review. I can't jump to dramatic reading from The Death of Takahata. He was just... It's too close, man. He was one of the good ones. I am going to grab some water in this other room. There we go. I have not seen everything Takahata made, but I've seen most of it. Horus, Grave, Yamada's, Kaguya. Well, I have a list here, don't I? I've seen a few episodes of Heidi and Anne of Green Gables. I've seen Panda Go Panda. Wow, yeah, I've seen Only Yesterday, Pompoko. I've seen all of it. Wow. I mean, I'm sure he's done bits and pieces here I haven't seen, but yeah, I've seen pretty much all of that. Heidi has not been fan-subbed, just like the first 2 episodes. And Anne, again, I saw a few episodes, and I was like, okay, but I haven't really dug in. I don't think I've gone very far on that. Nope, that's not it. Okay, we will do this. And we'll do that. Anne of Green Gables. Yeah, it has not been licensed, the creator. It's not... there's no release over here. It's one of those things where it's just, you know, who's going to pay for 50 episodes of a family anime? There's no market for it, sadly. Cool. There's bits of it on YouTube. Fair enough. Okay. Get this going here. At some point, I will get used to this schedule, and I'll have everything ready to go. But I keep getting back and forth on, oh yeah, I'm all ready to go. No, you're not. Okay, let's do the review. Actually, I'll take a little more water here first. I'm kind of thirsty. Right, exactly. Not even if they were interested, not something that old. Yeah, Heidi does not come across as anime. In fact, I think Heidi may have come over here to like the U.S. in like limited release in the 80s. I think I read somewhere where, you know, different channels would pick it up here and there. By no means a wide release, but just one of those things where it was on this NBC affiliate in California and this ABC affiliate in the Midwest or whatever. So, yeah. Or at least bits and pieces. Yeah, you're right, Fisher. Grave absolutely felt like it was a life experience. Because it was, basically. Hey, Russet. Grave of the Fireflies was semi-autobiographical. Like that was the author's experience. Not completely, but very close. All right. Review. Why is that showing that? That shouldn't show that. Why is that there? Okay. Let's do this thing. Is there a name for a show that's passable across the board, except for one particular attribute? That's what I'd call the 4-episode 1988 OVA Vampire Princess Miyu. It's based on a manga that had just started that year, with both manga and anime created and directed by the same husband and wife team, imagine that, Toshiki Hirano, director of Magic Knights Ray Earth, amongst others, and Narumi Kakinouchi. So we're already off to an unusual start with this one. Vampire Princess Miyu is a supernatural horror series that focuses on two protagonists. Himiko, an adult woman, who is a sort of spiritualist detective whose cases often cross paths with the titular Miyu, a young vampire girl. Miyu, accompanied by a mysterious cloaked protector named Larva, seeks out and destroys evil Shinma, which are mischievous spirits a bit like, say, traditional Japanese oni or yokai. Okay, you may be thinking, this sounds like a typical demon hunting show. We'll get to why it's different in a minute, but let's start by talking about the animation. That is, admittedly, kind of my thing. So, typical for anime, especially an atmospheric, psychological horror story, there are a lot of static shots with no movement in Miyu. Fortunately, those moments are chosen well to let us really focus on the imagery being shown to us. When characters do move, they do so cleanly, with plenty of budget to represent that movement. Nothing feels either weirdly over-animated or cheaply under-animated, especially given the average budget of a late 80s OVA. Remember, Akira was just hitting at this point. Characters remain on model throughout, and the show avoids out-of-place anime visual cliches like face faults or nosebleeds. Wouldn't feel right. Similarly, the pacing matches the tone of the show very well. It's a slow series, giving the audience time to reflect on eerie visual imagery and each line of dialogue. Okay, so no more beating around the bush. It is in the writing where Vampire Princess Miyu shines. Not talking about individual lines of dialogue here, but the nature of each episode's story and its implications for its characters impressed me. This series is full of tragedy and heartbreak and well-intentioned decisions that don't work out as well as intended. Also interestingly, Miyu sets itself squarely in the modern and completely normal world. So many horror stories just soak in gloom, where everyone seems to live in a perpetual haunted twilight. Not in Miyu, where bright, cheerful colors abound in much of each episode. Side characters live happy, average lives to all appearances. This actually makes the inevitable dark encounters with Shinma all the more unsettling for the contrast, so good job there. Unfortunately, this depth may not seem obvious in the first episode or two, as Miyu and Himiko establish this simple, straightforward, antagonistic relationship in what initially appears to be a straightforward demon hunting series. Himiko sees Miyu as this evil predator who just feeds on humanity and probably is in league with the Shinma somehow, while Miyu sees Himiko as a hot-headed mortal who just interferes with Miyu's Shinma hunting job. Seems very straightforward. Miyu herself presents an interesting enigma to the viewer, though, right from the start. She seems completely comfortable in her role, calmly seeking out Shinma and banishing them to the dark, as she calls it. When humans obstruct her, she usually works around them with no stronger reaction than a wry smile. She appears to lack any angst or melancholy about her lot in life, although when questioned about her little vocation, or her relationship with her protector, Larva, she becomes strangely evasive. It's a neat twist on the standard "I'm fated to hunt demons, woe is me" formula so common in anime. Fortunately, the final 2 episodes do what I never expected, and no spoilers here. They actually delve deeper into Miyu's backstory and explain her attitude. The staff don't just tell a couple of unconnected horror stories here, typical of a lot of these sorts of OVA. And the final episode works as a surprisingly satisfying ending for an ongoing horror franchise, right? Those tend to just kind of go on. Quick side note on the dialogue and voice acting. I deliberately listened to half of this OVA in English and half in Japanese. The main performers do perfectly respectable jobs with their characters, while a lot of the side characters in both languages are really, really cheesy. Just be aware. It's kind of remarkable. Overall, though, Miyu gives supernatural horror fans precisely that. Lots of the supernatural and horrific storylines about relatable people making ultimately poor choices. While its various elements like animation, sound, and voice work don't quite elevate it to classic status outside of its genre, it's one of those anime series that executes on its concept admirably well. This is quality. That's that. That took some dryness to the throat. Yeah, it's weird. I enjoyed Miyu, but there were so many aspects to it where I'm like, okay, this is fine, this is fine, this is fine. Where does it get interesting? And it was really in the writing of those episodes and how they worked up to that climax. You're like, oh my gosh, the implications for that character was well done. Thanks, Kuma. Thanks, Matt. I really wanted to get across because Miyu's an easy OVA to overlook. It's an easy one to just kind of say, oh, okay, yeah, it's supernatural horror, it's okay. But it's kind of one of those, wow, kind of things. Weird. Thanks, Game Escape. Glad you all could be here. What I'm going to do, I'm going to do another giveaway. I'm going to give away something. I got lots of stuff to give away. What should I give away? I think, let's give away Gantz. This is a weird one. This is Gantz Season 2 box set. Still in the shrink wrap, I think. Nope, not in the shrink wrap. No, it's been taped closed. That's great. By somebody, certainly not me. It's still got the, oh, that's over the price tag. I can't see the price tag there. So there's the price tag. But this is Gantz Season 2 on DVD. Actually, it's just the same thing on both sides. Well, different characters. So one character there, one character there. Nice art, actually, on this. Oh, there we go. A little bit of focus. A little bit of focus. No. I cannot wait. I'm going to be getting the new camera next week, I think. And I just cannot wait to deal with that. So that's the thing. So if you guys are interested in this, I'm going to give this to somebody in the chat room. Gantz is actually appropriate for Friday the 13th and for supernatural horror. It is a sort of a sci-fi action horror series with sort of body horror and characters forced to do things they don't want to do and lots of angst and seriousness, all that kind of stuff. So came out, oh gosh, 10 years ago or so, something like that. And was quite remarkable when it came out because it's very, very violent, very bloody, lots of nudity, all that kind of good stuff. So I'm going to give that out to somebody in the chat room, whoever's at the top of the chat in the next 10 seconds or so. I want to try something else too or after we do this. Spin to Win says one of the best deaths in anime history. That's cool. All right, I'm going to give it to somebody in the chat room. Whoever's at the bottom of the chat room in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and spin to win. Congratulations. You win Gantz. That worked out, didn't it? So congratulations, Spin. You'll be getting Gantz. And congratulations to you. I might do another giveaway here a little later on in the night. But that kind of works out nicely. Let me try something else here. Can I ask somebody to get over to the Discord? Because I want to try something. I want to see if the Discord, because I can actually pull the Discord over here in a window. Maybe I'll put it over here. And this might actually be a better way of doing chat. So if somebody can go over to Discord into the live stream and give that and just type something, I'm going to basically say something and see how quickly people can respond and see if the delay on Discord is faster or is less than the Discord over there. Faunus Fox says Discord works well for me. That's cool. All right. Hey, Russet. All right. So when I say the word Gundam, Russet, I want you to type the word rocks, R-O-C-K-S, and enter. Okay? So when I say the word Gundam, you're going to type in the word rocks. So in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, Gundam. And we'll see how long it takes for that to show up in my thing over there, which is taking a fair amount of time. So that's unfortunate. We'll see if there's a significant delay. Okay, rocks. Came out actually pretty quickly, maybe 10 seconds, which seems a lot faster than over there in the YouTube chat. Okay, so I might next week. What I'm going to do now actually is I'm going to keep both of these open this week. So I'll be looking at both YouTube and Discord. But I might just transition over to Discord for the main chat in future. Just because I kind of like this better. So we'll see. Might make it a little smaller. There we go. And just play around with that a little bit. I think that'll be nicer, all things considered. And the Discord's a little easier for all those things. I could also do D&D this way, possibly. We'll see. All right, cool. So we know that works. That's good. Yay! All's well. All right, let's move on to something else because I need to. All right, I need to get ready for the next segment. So let me give you about 5 minutes of Superman while I prepare for the other thing. I've not seen the Miyu TV series, Bruno, so I cannot comment. Only seen the OVA. All right, I'll be back in a few minutes with the dramatic reading, and we'll move on to the debate about genres poised for a comeback.
Up in the sky, look! It's a bird! It's a plane! It's Superman!
In the endless reaches of the universe, there once existed a planet known as Krypton, a planet that burned like a green star in the distant heavens. There, civilization was far advanced and had brought forth a race of supermen whose mental and physical powers were developed to the absolute peak of human perfection. But There came a day when giant quakes threatened to destroy Krypton forever. One of the planet's leading scientists, sensing the approach of doom, placed his infant son in a small rocket ship and sent it hurtling in the direction of the Earth just as Krypton exploded. The rocket ship sped through star-studded space, landing safely on Earth with its precious burden, Krypton's sole survivor. A passing motorist found the uninjured child and took it to an orphanage. As the years went by and the child grew to maturity, he found himself possessed of amazing physical powers. Faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, able to leap tall buildings at a single bound. The infant of Krypton is now the Man of Steel, Superman. To best be in a position to use his amazing powers in a never-ending battle for truth and justice, Superman has assumed the disguise of Clark Kent, mild-mannered reporter for a great metropolitan newspaper.
Kent, I want to see you. Just received another threatening note.
Okay, Mr. White.
Lois, another note from the mad scientist.
Coming in, Chief.
Now listen to this warning. He plans to strike tonight. Beware, you fools. My electrothanasia ray strikes tonight at 12. Total destruction will come to those who laughed at me and failed to heed my warnings. Beware, I strike at midnight. This nut may prove dangerous. Kent, you help Lois follow up her lead. She may have an angle on this thing.
Yes, sir.
But, Chief, I'd like the chance to crack the story on my own.
No.
Thanks, Chief.
But, Lois... Chief, don't you think that's a dangerous mission?
Come.
I'm a reporter for the...
There we go, and we are back with that. Oh, shoot. Yeah. I want to get all ready, but I'm not ready. 1 second. No. Oh, and it's not going to be there, is it? It's not there. Dang it. Hold on. Wait a minute. Oh. We need to do this thing, then we can do the other thing. And then we're ready to do the thing, because that would be a good thing to do. Do the thing. Okay. Doop. And now I can actually do the thing where I do the thing so that it's over here. By the way, Daniel, you get a cookie. Because I never even thought to compare Macross and Yamato. And you're absolutely right. There are some definite connections between Macross and Yamato in terms of, obviously, the plot, but also themes, tone. Yeah, absolutely. That is totally there. Okay. Put that there, and then I can pull that up from here. Need to go back down there to get the thing. I'll be there in a second. Just keep your shirts on. Or not, you know. You don't want to have your shirt on. I'm not going to totally stop you from removing your shirt. I can't see it after all. I can't see one way or the other. It's not, you know, not my choice. Good, that fits well. And the next one I hope will fit well. We'll probably do that. Good. This will be a 3-pager. Good. All right, that fits there. That fits there. That fits. Ooh. It doesn't fit there. That's gonna have to do. Okay. Yeah, good. All right, we'll make this work. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, let's do this. I'm gonna have to. Oh, do I do that here? Oh, that's right. Yamato actually aired before any of them. Yamato aired in '74, Gundam in '79, and then Macross in '82. Hey, Derp. So there, Yamato is absolutely the progenitor of all those things. There it is. This is going to be quite the reading. One of those things where I was going for. There's actually a lot of wacky stuff this week in the dramatic reading territory. But this one is just right there. It's one of those things where it's like, yep, if you're going to go crazy dramatic reading, that is where to go. And of course the app crashes. Yeah, I could argue either way whether Avatar is anime. The style is sometimes it's anime, sometimes it's not. The animation style. Okay. Oops. This is a dramatic reading of an anime post from 20 years ago imploring you not to buy anime on DVD. Do not buy anime on DVD. Why, you may ask? A simple answer: regional code. As you may or may not know, but when DVD standards was being worked on by the manufacturers and the movie studios, they have agreed upon encoding scheme that movie on the DVD comes with the lockout code for different geographical zone for purpose of preventing peoples from buying DVD disc before the official launch by the distributors that signed the deal with the studios. To put it in English, no more import anime. No more fansub. And you can kiss goodbye to that special edition compilation Tenchi Muyo series you wanted and saved money for it. Get the picture? We're not done yet. What we need is to send the clear signal to the companies by boycotting the anime DVD. Not the CDs, not the VHS, and most importantly, not the LD Laserdisc. We must send the clear signal to those greedy CEOs on the both sides of Pacific. Excuse me. Freedom of choice is what consumers want and demand. Hey, it's your money. Think for a moment. You have the every God-given rights to buy and watch movie from anywhere and everywhere. It's your rights. Don't let anybody decide where and what movie you can buy. Demand the choose. Import or domestic, hey, you can buy a car, why not DVD? Take action, folks. Demand code-free DVD in US and Japan only. Or at least make a subcode for anime-only DVD, playable only on NTSC DVD players, i.e. Zone 1 Anime NTSC, Zone 2 Anime NTSC. So yeah, that was an actual argument. Yeah, the grammar does not help. He responded several other times, and the grammar was exactly the same. And just kept on like that, and didn't understand plurals and such things. Probably English not the first language, but still, it did not help the argument. And for what it's worth, people did pretty much just tear him to pieces over that. It's like, yeah, that was pretty impressive. I particularly like the argument that you have the right to buy whatever you want, no matter anything. That the people who make it don't matter. It's what you want. And there can't possibly be any reasonable restriction. In fact, people brought up, imports hurt reverse importation hurts the anime industry. Like, that is a problem. Yeah, everyone else doesn't matter. Just America and Japan. It's, exactly. It's weird. But yeah, DVDs, because of region locking, DVDs are the devil and they must be stopped. And even folks brought up the fact that, well, you really think that, you really think anime fandom is big enough to make an impact here? Like, really, on the entire DVD industry? No. Yeah, very passionate about this. There was another one I was reading that was of equal levels of crazy, but I couldn't find the original post. And even this, I couldn't find the original post. I had to cobble it together from quotes. But it was impressive. No problem, Russet. Yeah, LD Laserdisc. What was... I'm going to have to pull this up. Because I think I have it pretty much right here. It'll just be in my... Whoop, whoop. I can find this, because it'll just be right here in the the thing. That was fine. Oh yeah, it was the person who wrote, was it Samurai in Outer Space, I think, which was a book about, oh there it is, Samurai from Outer Space was an early book about anime, obviously kind of written by a fan, not particularly well written, and the author came online to post about it and got kind of eviscerated, and then just exploded. Just went completely off the rocker. Lots of all caps. I have some good examples here. Here are some quotes. There is no one more reasonable than I. The proof is the fact that I actually tolerate mostly stupid personal attacks like this. These are not opinions. They are well-reasoned, fact-supported arguments. What you say is opinion, and a particularly irritation one at that. See here. No one asked for or is interested in your opinion of me personally. I could care less, but not much, and I know Sean could care less as well. And as for you, you suck like a vacuum cleaner. Rule number 1, if you post an insult, you'll get one back. Then proceed to correct other people's grammar, which is good. Actually, I take that back. Samurai from Outer Space was, this was, the person writing this was reviewing Samurai from Outer Space and criticizing it. And people were responding to the review saying that the book were disagreeing with that particular review, and the reviewer exploded. The reviewer posted under the name of Teresa Carvonen. Don't know. Like to reply all, which is good. And lots of fun little arguments about how, you know, as soon as anyone sees my work, they immediately hire me. Like whom? Crickets. Oh, anime was absolutely on Laserdisc. That was the best way to get anime. High quality stuff. You know, Honey and Mise was on Laserdisc. Evo was on Laserdisc. That was far and away the highest quality release of Eva. The DVDs were up there. I have not read Samurai from Outer Space, so I do not know. Samurai from Outer Space was from the early days of anime reviewing and discussion. It's one of those things where, I'm sure it wasn't terrible, it was one of those things where it was, you know, one of the first handful of books about anime. So it was written by a, you know, probably a, well, let's look it up. I remember seeing the book, but I never really... Right. Antonia Levi was the author. 3.5 stars on Amazon. 160 pages. Great book for brand new anime fans. Good book for historical perspective of anime. Insight into culture undermined by shallow anime knowledge. Let's see here. Wow. Long review here. So apparently there's a lot of kind of unproven assertions in the books. For example, Generation X viewers are drawn to anime because of ambiguity in their own lives. But then outshouts that thesis with another one, which proves they're not attention deficit slackers. A lot of conflicting theories about what anime is or is not. Also tends to contrast anime with the Judeo-Christian view that apparently all Westerners believe. You know. Okay, so it's apparently kind of a I know more than you do, so I will benefit you by explaining this to you. The poor benighted person who just doesn't understand everything I do is apparently the tone of the book. So yeah. Unfortunate. Oh yeah, Laserdisc was insanely expensive. You know, an individual Laserdisc of a movie would be $80 to $100 for one movie. It was very, and that's 1980s, 1990s money. So yeah, hugely expensive. But like you say, the Japanese bubble economy was riding high, so people could afford it. Some people could afford it, and a lot of otaku were were living alone and had plenty of money to buy that stuff. So, and as we've established, otaku are crazy, and will actually pay that much, right? I have bookshelves and bookshelves of manga and hundreds and hundreds of anime discs to prove I am crazy to buy all this stuff and do that stuff. All right, let's go into the debate. I should do an intro for the debate. Keep forgetting to do the intros. But before we do the intro, and by the way, let me just double check here. Be absolutely sure. Got the thing. That's not the thing. Let's see here. Spin to win. Do I have your mailing address? Spin to win. Private message me your mailing address in the Discord. I don't see it in there. Bruno asked, do I still buy anime in physical media? Not as often, because, Crunchyroll. I have done it fairly recently. I think the last Otakon I went to, or the Otakon before that, there was something out on DVD that I picked up. And then I have folks who give me anime, actually. People who are getting rid of their collection will often dump. Oh, sorry, Red. Gotcha. Of course. I still don't see a PM from you with your mailing address. I may have had it in the past, but if you could PM me that again, I would appreciate it. Just to make sure I don't miss your mailing address. Anyway, I want to move on to the great debate, because why not? And that is on. I'm gonna call it anime genres. Will it fit though? I think it'll fit. Yeah. Let's do that. Yeah, I think you're right, Bruno. I think we've got enough physical media now. I think physical media is kind of not fading away, but people realize that they don't need physical media. And they've got plenty of physical media. It's the classic, how many times am I going to buy the Beatles again? Right? People bought the Beatles on 8-track and cassette tape and CD, and then another CD limited release and all that. And it's like, how many reissues of The Godfather do we need at some point? All right. So, yeah, I think we'll just do it that way. Cool. There. Oh, there we are. Gotcha. Thank you. Cool, then I will just package both of those together. That works. Okay, yeah, for some reason it wasn't showing the red in there on my Discord. Okay. So let me go back here. So I am checking the live stream chat. All right. Welcome to the Great Debate, where today we are talking about the anime genres that may be poised for a comeback. Genres come and go, right? You get some genres that are really big in the 70s and then just kind of fade away. Let's talk about that a little bit. What are the genres that were big in the past and maybe have faded away? And what are some of the big ones right now that maybe it's time for them to move on? Certainly in the 70s, you got all sorts of sports anime, big in the 70s. Super Robot was big in the 70s as well. I think sports anime is one of those genres that has never really died out. It's just kind of found a new level where there's always some sports anime being done. So that's there. Super Robot certainly is not as big as it was in the 70s because Real Robot took over in the 80s and dominated that decade. The 80s also saw the real rise of the sitcom, for lack of a better term, the really goofy sort of Ranma style sitcom, where you had this very odd situation for the characters, but it wasn't just a 13-episode comedy. It was these long comedies, and that seems to have gone away as well, which is kind of interesting. The anime sitcom. The 90s saw all sorts of stuff. Saw a lot of sci-fi in the 90s, certainly. A resurgence of fantasy in the 90s as well. But I would say the late 80s, early 90s were big for sci-fi. Yeah, Meizani Koku, great example of a 80s comedy where there's romance in there, but it's relatively minimal compared to the comedy. Well, I guess they're more. There's a lot of romance in Meizani Koku, but still, point being. And the 2000s were certainly dominated by high school harem series, slice of life harem shows. I don't think there's any other real genre that dominated that, right? Well, right, Bruno. What I'm saying is that there are certainly comedic anime series, but not comedic anime franchises like there were back then, where there were multiple Ranma series. Right, Meizani Koku went on for dozens and dozens of episodes, and that doesn't seem like a genre that seems like a thing where you get them, but they're little things. We don't have the long form, I guess. Anime comedy is what I'm talking about. That, yeah, Love Hina. That's what I'm talking about, as opposed to the short sitcoms, if you will. So I wonder if that's, I mean, granted, we don't really get much of any anime that is long form anymore. It's just hard to have that happen. Hard to keep that going in the modern anime industry and with the anime fandom. Folks just want to move on to the next thing. Although we do see certain long form franchises. Certainly the Idol anime franchise concept has been a big thing over the past I would say the past decade or so, where there's plenty of these long-form Idol franchises that they keep on doing. So that's more of a new genre. Maybe you could do a long-form comedy series. Who knows? Several people in the chat room suggest mecha. Time for a mecha comeback. Now the question is it time? I mean, would we see a super robot come back or a real robot come back? Is that, is it time for a super robot return? Super robot is generally aimed more at children. It's more fun and over the top and joyous, right? It can be dark, but the darkness is definitely a spice as opposed to a constant thing in Super Robot. Is it time for that, or is it time to be dark? Is it time to be serious, gritty, the way Real Robot tends to be? I'm not sure. I'm certainly seeing a bit of a move away from completely happy, goofy, light high school romances as the norm. Hey, Master Chief. Obviously, there are light comedies out there, but it doesn't seem to be as big of a thing. So we are getting more of a trend towards more serious stuff. Darling in the Franxx is a more serious super robot show. Maybe that's what's going to happen. Maybe we're going to see a melding of Super Robot and Real Robot, where we have kind of the darkness and the grittiness of Real Robot merged with the over-the-top action of Super Robot in shows like Darling in the Franxx, which is also not unlike the overall tone of Gurren Lagann, which was very much that. We're going to do Super Robot, but we're going to go a little darker and more gritty with that. So that's possible. That'd be interesting, really, actually. One of the advantages of Super Robot is it really takes advantage of the anime medium, where the robots don't have to be realistic. They can be ridiculous, and that would be fun. Oh, interesting. The near future sci-fi. That's a good point, Game Escape. We don't have much of that. We don't really get a lot of that. Yeah, that kind of cyberpunk-ish anime. Part of the problem is that cyberpunk, it's hard to make cyberpunk today. We don't have a clear grip on near future technology because it changes so fast. We just don't know what that will look like, and it's very difficult for that to coalesce into a subgenre, right? Classical looking fantasy compared to light novel stuff. So Bruno, could you break that down a little bit? Because I'm not sure how I would differentiate between those two, and what would examples of those two things be? Yeah, space opera. Space opera was more, I don't know. I've been thinking about this a lot lately, about how much space opera was a genre, a significantly sized genre for anime at any point. I can't really think of a time when there were a lot of space opera series coming out. You had Legend of Galactic Heroes, you had a few other things here and there. Crusher Joe, maybe, depending how you count space opera. But there's just not a lot of straight up space opera I can point to. And I always assumed that space opera was probably big in the 80s, early 90s. But I don't know. Maybe I should go back and dig into some of the online lists. Because part of the problem is, to me, space opera does not mean space, sci-fi action, right? That's sci-fi action. Space opera needs to feel operatic. It needs to feel epic. I would say, for example, Captain Harlock is a space opera because it has big operatic emotions, big operatic stories. Galaxy Express 39s, I don't think is space opera because it is all disconnected stories, right? It's Twilight Zone in space. It's certainly in that mood, and a lot of the Leiji Matsumoto series are space operatic. Edo era anime. I would totally be up for more historical anime. I'd love to see more historical anime, period. Warring States period, Edo period. I'd love to see more stuff in early 20th century Japan. What was it like in Japan in the 19-teens and 1920s? Right? Quest of the Stars, anime space opera. Yeah, I haven't seen it, but from what I've seen, absolutely space opera. That's the thing, Bruno, is to me, the fantasy of the 80s and 90s all look the same too. You know, they all look like Lotus War. Pretty much. Because they were all pretty much copying Lotus War. So I'm not seeing that, and again, I'm not that familiar with fantasy anime, but I'm not familiar with a lot of wildly different art styles for fantasy anime back in that period, which is certainly different than what it looks like today. But horror. I think it's another one, a good example of a genre that's never really been huge on its own, but could definitely be poised for a big upswing. Like in the 80s over here, we had all the teen horror series. Yeah, that could certainly be. It'll depend on if Japan is in the right psychological mood for horror. Certainly there's a lot of horror out there. Interestingly, Japanese live-action horror seems to have hit a bit of a lull, where there's a lot of it out there, but it's not as big as it was back with The Ring, stuff like that. But yeah, horror could certainly make again, not sort of a comeback, but a big upswing. I mean, science fiction, general science fiction anime, and maybe even like near future science fiction anime might actually be a good one, given SpaceX and given some of the other things. You know, NASA planning to build a space station around the moon. I think that's a significant possibility where you could really jump into those into stories set in that, you know, couple of decades in the future thing. Ever been a Yakuza anime? Well, there was the adaptation of oh gosh. The Toshiro Mifune film. Okay, one second. One second. Yojimbo. There was an anime adaptation of Yojimbo called Kaze no Yojimbo, or The Wind of the Yojimbo, which sounds very scatological, but it's not. And it's basically a modern adaptation of Yojimbo, where this guy sort of sweeps into this sort of small town in Japan, and actually does gets involved with a sort of a crime syndicate that more or less runs the town and all that kind of stuff. You're right, Hell Girl finished its 4th season, so there's certainly big horror out there. But I'm trying to think of other Yakuza-focused anime series. I can't think of any, which could be one of those things where we don't want to piss off those guys. I seem to think... Oh, and of course there's the Yakuza in Tokyo Godfathers, but that's just a side plot. Interesting. Black Lagoon, probably. Yep. Almost certainly. Well, it's not Yakuza. I mean, you have Bacano, but that's about the American actual mafia. Huh. That's interesting. Yeah, Kaze no Yojimbo was interesting in that it was about kind of small crime, prostitution, things like that, in a relatively small town, modern day. But it was very dull. You know, it just nothing was happening. It's really hard to tell the Yojimbo story. You know, guy sweeps into town and gets involved in lots of different factions and plays them off each other, without being boring. It is a very slow burn kind of a story. Lots of Yakuza and Akagi. Okay, interesting. It's weird. Yeah, all I can think of is live action series. Maybe that would be a thing. I mean, I would love to see more crime stories in anime. We certainly don't see a lot of detective shows in anime. There's often, you know, mystery stories, stuff where there's some something that has to be dealt with, but not so much Yakuza crime stories. Huh. Maybe it's time for that. Who knows? I mean, part of the problem is that it's... there don't seem to be a lot of crime stories in general in Japan. That's just one of those things that just is not a popular genre for media. You get a few every year, you know, an occasional movie or TV series kind of a thing, but not a doesn't seem to be a really big thing. But and then again, I may not be. I'm speaking very much from somebody who is not seeped in what's coming out in Japanese cinemas there, all the time. So there may be more than I'm aware of. Interesting. Angel Heart, crime. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, Marion, I'm not sure the West is ready for mecha. I mean, yes, we have more mecha things, but I don't know that the West is ready to support like a mecha series. Maybe a movie. Part of the problem is, of course, just anime in general. I don't think the West is ready to the West is not going to flock to an anime Gundam movie. We're just not ready for the animation yet. Let's see here. Animated love stories, that'd be interesting. Sanctuary, 2-episode OVA, fair enough. Yeah, the Yakuza are a, you know, quasi-legal organization in Japan, so it's complicated. I don't know that I want a live-action Gundam movie, to be honest. I don't think that Gundam would work live-action. I'm a huge Gundam fan, too. I don't think that's a thing that's ever going to be, you know, mainstream in America. I think it's that, and that is not because I think that the Americans are dumb or anything. I think it is just too foreign. It is just too... you know, it is jumping through too many hoops in terms of animation, story concept. The chief Gundam officer talked about this. That it is hard to pitch to Western audiences the concept of a war story where the main character hates fighting in the war the entire time. You know, and there's nothing gung ho. There's nothing, you know, about that. It's just it's a really it's a complicated approach to a war story to pitch to people, plus the anime, plus everything else. Pacific Rim was bad? There was nothing bad about Pacific Rim. Pacific Rim was amazing. Pacific Rim was fantastic, in my opinion. You're absolutely right, Matt. I think one of the problems with mecha is just impracticability. Like, you do have to come up, you have to realize the fact that, you know, these things are not practical. That's, you know what, Jerp, you bring up something interesting. The World Masterpiece Theater shows. I'm actually kind of surprised that we don't have that anymore. For those not familiar, World Masterpiece Theater was a yearly adaptation of a children's novel, typically, or novel series into a 50-episode anime series. So Anne of Green Gables will get a 50-episode anime series, and so forth and so on. And so you just got all of these children's films, you know, Heidi and all that stuff. And it was always, as far as I know, it was always successful. Now, granted, this was a different times, you know, 70s and 80s, into the 90s. But it seems to me like that's an easy sell. You know, it aims straight at kids. You get a lot of material. You can tell, you know, a variety of stories. There's all sorts of kids' stories to tell. I'm sure they did not, you know, go through every kid's story ever written. And I just wonder why that died out. It seems like something you just keep on doing all the time. And I'm sure it's one of those things where they were, you know, Shogakukan or some publisher was the main publisher, and they were like, well, you know, we're focusing on different things. This doesn't make sense for us right now. And there was no other, you know, financier ready to step in. So yeah. Master Chief brings up an interesting question as to whether otaku anime are going to become a thing. Are they going to see a bunch of shows about otaku? I can see that happening. I can see otaku as protagonists as a major thing. I mean, there's that would be catering straight to the fans, and that is something that we would all understand, right? Doing the Genshiken, even Welcome to the NHK is, I mean, he's not an otaku, but it's catering to those sorts of experiences. But definitely Genshiken, those sorts of shows, I think that might be a genre that would appeal a lot to fans. Although, I mean, you see things like the anime adaptation of Akiba Strip never really went anywhere. So I don't know if that's really something that makes sense. Financially, who knows? I mean, that would certainly kind of square the circle. Where we could have anime to otaku that are about otaku. I don't know. We'll see. So yeah, so that's interesting. So I think, I don't know. I think, I agree that mecha feels like it's poised for some kind of resurgence, but in a different form. Like I said, I can see a super robot and real robot melding. I can see... I know, we've had enough comedy. I don't see a huge comedic thing. I can see near future science fiction. Maybe. Outbreak Company and Gate. Yep. Definitely otaku leads. And it doesn't seem like either of those, like, exploded. None of those really... They had their fans, but didn't really turn into huge franchises. Post-apocalyptic. Interesting, Van Riley. Anime would certainly do post-apocalyptic very well. Because you have over-the-top action sequences. You have people wearing the same clothes every time, so it's easy to animate. It's actually kind of surprising. Why don't we see... I mean, we saw a lot of post-apocalyptic anime in the 80s. Maybe that would be a reasonable thing, especially with the popularity of zombies. You know, seeing that come in. Yeah, Fits of the North Star, absolutely. Seeing more post-apocalyptic zombie survival horror kind of stories, that would work. Huh. That's interesting. That is really interesting. That would totally make sense. It'll also depend on how the Japanese economy does, on how well, on what the Japanese feel like, right? In terms of just what the mood is. That often determines what is popular or not. Whoever knows. Yeah, superhero anime was a fad, pretty much. It seems. Such is life. Alright, I think I covered this pretty darn well. That's some interesting thoughts. Thank you all very much. And we'll be back next week with another topic, but it's some interesting stuff. So I'll stick around here for a little while, and the rest of you watching on YouTube, see you next time. All right. A zombie outbreak in a Gundam series. The thing is, Gundam characters are so competent. It's funny, there was a... I would argue there was a little bit of a nose tweak at Evangelion in the first episode of Gundam Build Divers. It was really funny, actually, because the main character is told to leave the battle, and he goes, "I'm gonna have to run away," and this girl like puts her hand on his hand and says, "Don't run away," and he goes, "You're right. I'm never gonna run away." And he just goes right back into the battle, and it's kind of this, no, Gundam heroes do not run away. We don't need that thought does not run into our minds. We just keep on going. Kind of funny. I think you're absolutely right, Matt. That if we want folks to take anime more seriously, we need more Grave of the Fireflies. We need more serious works of art, but we also need the middle ground. We need the Miyazaki movies. Miyazaki's made huge inroads into geek culture, mainly because it is so approachable. It's not a heavy war movie. Kiki's Delivery Service is not a heavy war movie. It's an easy thing to recommend to people. So that's that weird little, inroad, that crossing over into anime. Huh. That's a really interesting. So Tonto in the chat room, here and there, now and then, was isekai post-apocalyptic. Interesting. I'm not. I'll have to think about that. I just really got to think about that. Because it's basically, African warlords transported to a fantasy world. But in terms of what that is in that fantasy world, yeah, I could see that. I can totally see that. Isekai to another world might blow up. You're right, that could be. Certainly the transport to other world thing could be a huge, huge thing, because it's an easy fantasy to invent. And you can cross over with lots of different genre concepts. You can do sort of fantasy sci-fi. We're seeing that already in the reborn into a fantasy creature genre in manga, where a lot of those are we're seeing characters who are not from our world. They're from like a science fiction world transported into a fantasy world, seeing how they react to that. Alternative history, yeah, could be. Anime certainly would be a good thing for that. Yeah, Code Geass. Code Geass is technically sort of, it's alternate future, right? Like Code Geass isn't set in the modern day, I don't think. It's set in a period where a different thing happened in the past, but then it's gone beyond our time, I think. I'm not sure. I'd love to see more science fiction. I'd love to see more just general science fiction and fantasy in anime. Just straight up science fiction, straight up fantasy. I'd love to see more D&D style fantasy in anime. But it just doesn't seem to be something that... It's more popular in the novels, it's more popular in tabletop than it is in anime for whatever reason. Those things just don't take off. And part of that is just, Flash. There's only so much you can do visually with a fantasy world. You have magic, but still. How familiar am I with Ikuhara's works? Yeah. I have not... so I've seen the first 5 episodes of Utena, and it is on my list this year to finish Utena. I've seen all of Yurikuma Arashi. I've seen the first episode of Mawaru Penguindrum. And I think there's something else he's done that I've checked out. Anime set in ancient Rome. It feels to me like there was. Maybe not set in ancient Rome, but there was ancient Rome. I must be high. But yeah, I've seen a non-trivial amount of Ikuhara. And Ikuhara also worked on Cutie Honey, I think. So, I may be high on that one too. 1 second. Let me see. No, that would have been way too early. Nope. Obviously, I've seen bits and pieces of Sailor Moon. Okay, yeah, that's that. I mean, all sorts of science fiction. I mean, far future, Akira, you name it. Oh yeah, deeper stuff would be awesome. But we've never gotten a lot of that. Unfortunately, that's one of those things that no medium has ever really become heavy with heavy themes. Yeah, but Kaiba went off the rails in very deliberate ways, right? Kaiba was always meant to be weird, and it went weird. You know, I think Kaiba was very deliberate. It wasn't just let's be wacky. So I've always respected it for that. I mean, actually, if you want anime about the nature of consciousness in the self, Caligula from this season. I don't know how far it's going to go, but it's definitely starting to delve into that "am I crazy?" thing. We'll see, though. We'll see how deep it gets. All right. That is not doing the thing. That is not doing the thing. That's doing the thing. Aliens. Resident Evil. I have played no Resident Evil, so I have no idea. Yeah, anime tends to do horror pretty well. Speaking of Gegege no Kitaro from this season. Perfect. That first episode is as a huge Kitaro fan who owns everything Kitaro that's been published in English so far. That first episode is exactly what I wanted out of a Kitaro anime. Good job. So if you're saying that Kino's journey doesn't impress you, I have nothing to offer you, Spin to Win. If you're are you talking about Caligula, Spin to Win? I'm not sure what it is what you're talking about there. Future Boy Conan. So, kind of isekai, future sci-fi stuff. Miyazaki stuff. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was good. What else did I check out this season? Oh, Comic Girls. Comic Girls was really charming, really cute little, definitely moe girls. Kaiba reminded you of Kino's journey? I just don't even know how those are connected in any those planes do not intersect in any 2 points. Grounded realistic anime? Yep, I'd be up for that. I mean, that's Eden of the East. If you're looking for that. Still a little sci-fi, but definitely grounded. It would be interesting to see a rise in grounded anime. Serious real world anime. I don't think that's a very good fit for anime. Tokyo Magnitude 8.0. There is no explorative world building in Kino's journey. That is not Kino's journeys do not build that world. All Kino is doing is finding little completely disconnected pockets of that world. That is not building that world. Remake Nausicaa. Yeah, that would make everyone happy. Everyone would just absolutely adore a remake of Nausicaa. I don't know what you'd remake with Nausicaa. I could certainly see, Miyazaki. I mean, Miyazaki couldn't do it. He's too old. But I could see him coming back and doing. I could see somebody adapting the rest of Nausicaa, the manga. Yeah, leave Nausicaa alone. But yeah, I can totally see somebody saying, okay, that was 200 pages. Let's do the other 800. I totally can see someone trying that. Yeah, but spin to win, that's not what Kaiba is. Hey, Rockman. Yeah, in Kaiba, every episode is telling you more about that world and more about developing and more, you learn more about the rules of the entire world every episode of Kaiba. With Kino's journey, what you learn in episode 2 tells you nothing about the next episode 3 or episode 6. Those are completely disconnected environments. So it is not explorative world building in that way. Oh yeah, Nausicaa is 1,000 pages. Spin, if you don't see how each episode of Kaiba tells you something new about their world and how their world works, we were not watching the same series. You learn about how their heads work and about the implications of swappable bodies and the idea of discardable bodies. All those things come up and, explain more of that world with every episode of Kaiba. That's not how Kino's journey works. And the tones are different. The approach is different. Kino is not like Kaiba at all, and they have completely different story arcs, completely different intentions. It would be interesting to see if Ghibli ever actually does something, takes on a challenge like that. If Ghibli says, you know what, from now on, we're just gonna make, Nausicaa. We're gonna do the rest of Nausicaa for the next 10, 15 years. That'd be awesome. Because they're about the only ones who could do it. If they just became kind of the Nausicaa factory, kind of like Studio Kara is the Evangelion factory, that'd be funny. All right, I'm going to move on to Otaku no Cooking because I want to do that. So let's do a little bit of a panel, maybe a lot of a panel. How long is this clip? Yeah, it's a while. Well, see, I disagree, Spin to Win, because I do not see the setting as the driving force of Kaiba. The actions of Kaiba and what he does at the end of the story is the driving force of Kaiba. All right, but that's just my opinion. Let me show you a bit of a panel, and then I'll transition over to the kitchen. As usual, there may be a brief interruption of service, but should be back shortly. So, be right back. Moe saved again. I'll explain why. This happened. This is the Japanese stock market and real estate market from 1980 to 2005, and it was doing really well, and then it stopped doing really well. Yep. The bubble economy burst, as they say. Now, Akira came out in '88, and there was all this money flowing into the anime industry. The anime industry was still doing very well. So it took quite a few years after that bubble burst for that to be felt in the anime industry. So you got all these franchises moving along. But by about that red line, 1998, the money started seriously draining out of the anime industry. And there just weren't a lot of options. Nobody had money to spend in Japan, so to speak.
Didn't that relate to an American crash? Money flowed from America, maybe?
Kind of. We'll get that in a second. So, there are two anime series that I think really illustrate this, what's going on in 1998. One is Zero Twin, was lame. I mention this not because I love this show to death, but because the key to understanding this series is the second word in its title. This is a very experimental anime. It is a techno thriller about a girl who gets involved in weird things happening in the internet and what it means to relate to other people on the internet. It is a remarkably prescient show dealing with what it is like to be online. People who made this series clearly understood what it was like. When Lane, who's normally a very quiet girl, is online, she's a little more assertive, a little more, she has a little bit more of that edge to you, as we all are when we're talking to each other online. It really understands this. And it's weird. That's a screenshot. That's what the show actually looks like. They were really playing around with what you could do in anime because with the money gone, those who were left were the ones who really wanted to do interesting stuff in the medium. Another show that came out this year was Cowboy Bebop. Bebop did not do spectacularly well in Japan. It did okay, but it was not a massive hit. However, when it came over to America, we bought all the discs. And some of you were with me on that. You remember the LP discs? Yeah. The staff wanted to continue it for a little bit, and they investigated making a movie. And they ran the numbers, and they said, when we release this in Japan, we're going to fail. We're not going to make enough money. But if we release this in America, we'll go in the black. The reason we have Cowboy Bebop the movie is because sales of Bebop in America were so strong. The American anime fandom had grown so strong and was buying so much anime that it started to affect the sales figures in Japan. And we were starting to actually drive what was being made over there in a certain sense. Meaning, okay, not that yet. We'll get there. Basically, so what would happen is that American anime companies would in some cases go to a Japanese company and say, are you making any more bubblegum prices? Because if you are, we will give you money in return for directly licensing this, for locking up the licensing agreements ahead of time. And so the studio would say, actually, yeah, I have an idea. To be clear, the American companies weren't dictating what was going to be made. They were essentially offering cash, and then the production was all being done in Japan. The Ghost in the Shell movie was, to a great extent, financed directly by manga entertainment. So, another thing was happening. Fan subs. Gotta love that line.
What is this line from? I keep hearing this reference all the time.
I had to Google it, and then the name immediately disappeared as soon as I read it. I don't know, it's some show.
Yeah, basically.
Okay, fair enough. So, fan subs came in, and this thing happened. Anime sales started dropping. Now, some fan subbers claimed there was no correlation, but I can tell you, somebody in front of Pioneer, now Jenny On, said, in the year 2000, a middle-of-the-road, average, decently selling anime series would sell about 10,000 copies. 10 years later, that was 3,000 copies. That was right when fan subs became a big deal, and there was clearly some kind of correlation. People were just not spending money on anime anymore, which meant the anime companies could not send money over to Japan and could not help finance these shows. So suddenly the Japanese studios were being pinched on both sides. No money in Japan, no money coming from America. So what do? Part of the problem, too, is that this was kind of what they were assuming in the Japanese market at the time. Well, we're making money from anime, so next year we'll just charge 10% more, and then 20% more, and 20% more on that. We'll just keep on raising our prices every year. And the American licensing companies were like, we don't have much more money, we can't keep on doing this. And they started collapsing. And to be clear, anime prices dropped to about a quarter of what they were in 2000 by 2010. So the anime was getting cheaper to buy, but people were still saying, even at $40 for a series, folks were like, why don't I just go online and watch it? Haruhi Suzumiya is a great example of that. Hugely popular, came out on DVD and no one bought it because they're like, I already saw it. So, yeah. Anyway, so there was another trend going on. Visual novels. Visual novels are, if you're not familiar, they're basically choose-your-own-adventure stories told with anime-style graphics. There's more to it than that, but for a high-level explanation. And they are typically romance stories, and dating sims. And these were getting hugely popular. The theme song to Heart, upper left there, played on the radio. So like people knew about this stuff. And here's the thing. If you want to adapt a visual novel to anime, you've already got your character designs, you've got your voice actors, you've got your backgrounds, you've got your story.
You also have a fan base.
Yeah, and you have a huge fan base. So these were much less expensive to adapt with a built-in audience. And that's why we got so many. Now, yes?
But you did have to decide which cowboy path you're going to go in. Yeah.
Very true, yes. You still have to figure out which thing. Fortunately, it was to the point then with fandom that you knew which character was most popular.
Touche.
So, you know, but that was still although that was kind of an advantage, because folks were like, who'd they pick? Who'd they pick? Did they pick this person? Let's argue about it online constantly. Okay.
And then if your girl wasn't chosen, you have an OVA.
Yeah, exactly, right, totally. And unfortunately this slide doesn't show up here, but basically the number of anime adapted from visual novels spiked during this point. It actually never got huge. There was never more than, say, 15% of all anime were adapted from visual novels. It just felt that way because it went from like 0 to 15% in like 3 years. But to be clear, a number of anime studios existing today, the reason they're still alive is because they adapted visual novels back in the day to stay alive. They would not still be running if they weren't Moe series to adapt. What is Moe? This is actually a term that has changed over time. So you'll hear different definitions, and you know some of them were correct at some point, and the term is slightly different in Japan versus America. For our purposes, Moe refers to the creation of a Moe character is a character for whom the audience is meant to feel a sense of protectiveness, where they want to be that person's girlfriend or boyfriend and make sure they're safe and okay. That's what you're supposed to engender from these characters. It is much more different than cuteness. Now, to be clear, Moe's been around for a long time. Lin Min Mei in Macross/Robotech is absolutely a Moe character. They just didn't have a name for it yet. Right? She is there to make you feel protective of that character. She had more things to do. This was kind of a problem, however, for the industry as a whole. Okay, I think we managed to switch over from the other to this. Let me just check my audio over here, because I think on this machine it's set a little low. Nope, that is maxed out. Okay, cool. So here we are over here for Otaku no Cooking. Let us go ahead and do that then. All right, I got a lot of stuff running here, so 1 second. Didn't quite realize how much. Why is that? Oh, okay. As always, there's something doesn't quite want to do what you want to do. Okay, that seems about right. Okay. Welcome to Otaku no Cooking, where today I am making taco sausages. Little sausages in various shapes. Never made these before. We'll figure out how it goes. For this recipe, I am using the manga cookbook, and let's get into it. So these are these cute little sausage shapes, and I've got this cutting board I'm going to use and some Vienna sausages. And let's get going. I'm going to wash my hands before we go any further, because that's important. And this recipe makes octopus, squid, and crab shapes that you then cook, just, you pan fry. So we'll see what that's like. And we're just gonna try it out. Okay, so we start with, let's see here. Yeah, we're just gonna crank this open. They come packed in juice. So actually, I'm gonna grab a bowl here and just kind of fish these out. There we go. Oops. a little easier to work with. Okay. They sure smell. These are just sausages. Yeah. All right. So a couple of different shapes here. Interestingly, their sausages are rounded, like fully rounded, not like these. But what can you do? Didn't realize that. So basically, we're going to cut down about a third into the sausage, and then again in quarters, so it splits out, right? Just split out like that, and then do the same thing to cut it into eighths, and this cuts very easily, as you might imagine. And then you poke holes for the eyes. So I just need a little toothpick here. Hole, hole, and apparently when they cook they will spread out. But there's our little proto-octopus guy. Let's do another one. So divide it into quarters and then eighths. The reason you don't do it in eighths to start off with, I can tell you right now, is that it's very easy to judge eighths. But it's easy to cut in half, then in half again, and then in halves. Then we poke for the eyes. Be curious to see if you can actually tell anything with that. So how many of the 2, 4, 6, 7? So let me do, just so that nothing weird happens, I'm going to try doing, actually. So the squids, you cut these in half, like that. And then you cut the bottom third into several strips. I'm going to do 4 here. And then same thing over here, actually. And then same thing, poke holes for the eyes. We'll see if you'll be able to see anything in these eyes. So here's our proto squids. Look about the same. I don't know. Let's do that again. Cut in half. And then, like I said, we'll go ahead and pan fry this, and hopefully the legs will spread out. I'm guessing maybe, possibly. Let's see. We're here. Yep, these are Vienna sausages. All right, then we go over here. So crabs. So same principle as before. This time we cut in half. And this time we do 3 legs, so thirds on both the left and the right side. I can do that. And then 2 holes for eyes and 1 for the mouth. So we'll do eye, and then mouth. Weird. So let's do... As always, it is important to use the sound effects. Eye, mouth. So here's our little guy. He'll have his legs. Who knows? All right, then next we are going to, they recommend, you can boil, grill, or microwave. And they say they will curl up. So if you put it in a frying pan, you will get, marks on them because you're frying them. Let's try microwave. I like that idea. Easy, right? bigger plate for this. So let's just throw these on here. And we're just going to see what happens. Let's try, I don't know, a minute on hot. Well, maybe they tell us on the can. Heating directions: microwave. Microwave on high. Covered. 45 seconds until hot. Glad I checked. So we're just gonna throw this in the microwave for 45 seconds. See what happens. Hopefully this will peel the legs apart and they will look cute and adorable and the eyes will be visible, maybe. It's starting to smell good though. And yes, these are Vienna sausages. Just typical, simple Vienna sausages. Straight out of a can. Starting to smell good. Smell kind of hot doggy. I'm hearing some pops and sizzles, which means they're cooking, which is good. And they're just about ready. Well, maybe. Yep, they're definitely sizzling. Let me try another 15 seconds. Because they're not really separating. Ah! You can add sesame seeds to the eyes to make them more visible. Makes sense. Alright, let's see what we have. I hear sizzling. The big reveal. What do we got? Well, they are slightly separated. You can see a little bit. Kind of hot. Ha ha ha. Let's see here. I have some tongs. You can kind of see the eyes a little, slightly, and there is some slight separation on them. I don't know how much that looks like a crab or a squid, personally. This one's not too bad. They do separate out somewhat. I guess you probably, when you put this into your into your bento, you would arrange them a bit. So you would, put that in there and then spread them out a little bit, spread out the legs. Maybe, so you would prepare them properly. And it would look a little bit more like an octopus, perhaps. But now the question is, the most important question is, It's a Vienna sausage. Like, I don't know what else to tell you. If you like them, you like them. If you don't, you don't. But that worked reasonably well. I might actually, if I were doing this again, I would actually slice the legs. Like, I would cut off bits so they were wedges instead of just large pieces. And try it that way. I think just these sausages need more shaping. But that was a fun experiment. So we've learned a way of making taco sausage. I ended up cooking that for about a minute in the microwave, and that helped to spread out the legs a little bit. So, that's fine. Might play around with that a bit more some other time, but at least that gives us a starting point and something if you wanted to try it out. So it's that easy, just slicing little legs out of things. Not bad. The software I use for my 3D printer, Matt, is Cura. C-U-R-A. That is my standard slicing software. I also use Blender to model 3D files. Let me just move around here so I can actually... I wouldn't mind being Egon Spengler from Ghostbusters. Yeah, Bebop was actually more successful in America than it was in Japan. I mean, it certainly did not catch on with general Americans, but neither did any anime, other than Pokemon. But Bebop has unquestionably been one of the most successful anime series in America. You know, sales of that were just hugely strong throughout the early 2000s. So, yeah, it did very well over here, actually. But, you know, as to why it didn't break out into the mainstream, well, why does any anime not break it out into the mainstream? Right? It's the same as anything. It's anime. It's animation. All right. Oh, in Japan. Oh, gotcha. It's very American. Bebop is a very American show. It's all about Western media tropes. It's all about Hollywood movie tropes. You know, it's not about regular, you know, the experience of Japanese people. You know, it would be like an American movie about Japanese people, you know, and Japanese culture and all that. And why wouldn't that, you know, necessarily do well in America? Well, it's not really our culture. So, yeah, Bebop was basically the creators' love letter to American culture. I think that's why it wasn't a huge hit in Japan. And on that note, all right. I think I will finish that up here. Thank you all very much for the discussion. As always, that was a interesting and lively discussion. Hopefully by next week I will have the new camera. We'll see what that looks like. And hopefully I'll have a new review. Oh no, actually next week will be the 2018 spring anime review. I'll be spending this weekend watching all the episode 1s and giving you my thoughts on that next Friday. So the big old seasonal review is next week. I do plan to do Kit Bash tomorrow at 9 p.m. and then some video gaming on Sunday. So that's the plan. As always, thank you all very much. You are why I do this. And I hope you guys have a great, great week and a weekend. Take care all. See ya.